Kansas City Chiefs beat the Chargers, own the West, and let's be honest, most of the AFC, despite what was a day that did not end the way we thought it was going to. Chiefs right now in the driver's seat with a couple of returning players, an impressive performance by Travis Kelce and your quarterback, Patrick Mahomes. All that and more live on Locked On Chiefs.
From the land of the free and the home of the Chiefs, this is the Locked On Chiefs podcast.
Welcome back, friends and neighbors. We are live here on Locked On Chiefs from the stadium with Matt Derrick from ChiefsDigest.com, who has some adjustments and some Wi-Fi that we have to always be precluded from. But hey, we take our chances and we roll the dice. We are brought to you by FanDuel today. They roll the dice as well. They can get the official sportsbook partner of Locked On as well as the NFL. Go in there and check it out because every moment can be more. Right now, new customers are getting $5 off. You can bet $5 and get the $200 bonus bets with that $5 bet guaranteed right now at FanDuel.com/LockedOn. Lot to cover here, some ups, downs, big surprises, and the game did not continue the way that I thought it was going to. I was really, really close on that prediction. I almost nailed it. Going to go back to that. Matt Derrick is here live from the stadium. Chris Clark of Chiefs Corner is here. I'm Ryan Tracy, the founder of Rogue Analytics and Performance Consulting, NFL33.com, as well as RGR Football. Thanks for making us your first listen post-game. Even though we're a little bit behind, check out another Locked On show for your next one. A lot of fallout from this. Go check out the guys from the Chargers if you want to hear their opinion as well. I'm looking forward to it. Thanks for liking and subbing and hitting the bell here on this channel and on all the Spotify, Apple, all the audio podcasts. You can get us every day for free, and you can join the text line. My takeaways are already out on that at 816-357-8781. This is it. Top of the line, 31 points. I do believe that I called that right off the top. All contributed, well, felt like it was all contributed by Travis Kelce with 179 yards. A day when, hey, if you're going to feed him, you're going to feed him, Matt. Did you expect that kind of performance? Anything shocking to you? 12 for 13 for 179.
Yeah, I mean, the way that Travis is playing right now, nothing is surprising me. I mean, this is the really the second time in the last couple of weeks that he's threatened his career highs. 179, 12 yards away from his career best. So he's on another level right now. I mean, as the way he's playing, and it's hard to explain why, because obviously the man's 34 years old. He's got a bum leg that he's dealing with. He's certainly not as fast as he used to be. And Patrick was asked after the game if Travis is maybe playing the best football of his career. And Patrick says, well, maybe, but then, on that one catch, he would have gotten into the end zone when he was younger. So he's different in some ways, but what boggles my mind is that you can play a half of football like the Chargers, who have seen Travis Kelce every single year. And you think that all of a sudden that you just can act like he doesn't exist or he's just a normal tight end. That continues to baffle me. I mean, how everybody in the NFL just seems to let this guy roam free sometimes. And, it took until the second half when they decided, maybe we need to double cover this guy and do something different. And, that baffles me in this day and age that anybody would lose track of Travis Kelce, but they seem to do it every single week. And you have to give Travis a lot of the credit for that.
You absolutely do. Obviously, it comes from Patrick Mahomes. I thought he had great time today. I thought he looked poised. I was very impressed in particular with the way that the play call, along with Mahomes' execution of it, drifted a little bit more. Usually we see a drive that is quick game, up-tempo, and a drive that is a little bit more find your spots and take your shots, right? It felt like they switched gears a lot more cleanly today and were able to mix and match on a per-drive basis. Thought the quick game was important, but I thought Mahomes' performance was excellent. Maybe his best of the season, in my opinion. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, certainly numbers-wise, it looks up there. And, going through, Chargers had, I think it looks like really 3 quarterback hits until that last sack on the third down that was literally just, Mahomes going back and looking to see if there was anything there, and it really wasn't, so he wasn't going to take a risk and was okay taking the sack there. Other than that, 3 quarterback hits, and I can't even really remember them for the most part. And when he was scrambled, Mahomes said he had plenty of time. It wasn't like he was having to take out of the pocket early. It was because he goes 1, 2, 3, 1, and went back to 1 as far as looking for a target. And it was just, plenty of protection from the offensive line. The scrambles obviously set up some things because once those plays broke down, the Chargers lost contain and started letting some guys go free. That was just, and there were some of those throws that Mahomes made that, once again, I mean, we see it so often that I think, it becomes second nature and you just take it for granted. But there were some of those plays that Mahomes made that just no other quarterback does. And, and if he had connected on that one broken play down the sideline to Sky Moore, if that had made it, I mean, that would have been on the Hall of Fame reel. That was just that close. But even then, I mean, the Marquez, touchdown, broken play, there were it just seemed like moment after moment were just times where the offensive line gave Patrick time to throw, and he's able to make that work and, and find something out of nothing. And took a few more shots down the field today because the running, was opening it up a little bit. So even though they didn't successfully, I think successfully run the football most of the day, it did the trick as far as just opening up that zone a little bit and softening it up and letting them take a few shots, and they connected on them.
A couple of huge runs from Mahomes that got first downs, 8 yards. That was on a 3rd and 7, 23 yards on a 3rd and 15. Just did phenomenal with his legs. Stretching out plays, and the touchdown to MVS is a great example. MVS was on the complete other side of the field, but he has learned that you never give up on the play with Mahomes, and he ran to an open spot, gave his quarterback a chance to actually hit him, and scored a long touchdown for one of his best plays of the season. Obviously, you talk about Travis Kelce. The interesting thing to me, 6 games into the season now, he's now over 500. He's now at 525 yards receiving. If you would have gone back 3 or 4 weeks, we were not thinking that he's going to have a chance at making 1,000 yards. He just wasn't getting the passes and getting the yards that you would expect him to get. But that seems to really have changed. Obviously, this was a big game, almost 180 yards. But the other thing that sticks out to me is you look at Patrick Mahomes, 3rd game in a row, over 75% completion percentage. That is exactly what you need from him. He is being efficient, and he is taking care of the football. That INT is a little rough, but guy in his face as he was trying to get rid of the ball. So, it is what it is. At least it was a deep pass.
Yeah, and he had Marquez on that play, and he joked after the game in the press conference that he's like, just don't even look at Marquez on that play because don't worry about that. But so he knew he missed the play there, even on the interception. But yeah, I mean, and that's one thing that's been consistent throughout this first half of the season is that even though the deep ball has not been there, this team has not been able to push the ball quickly down the field as they like to. They have had some struggles in the red zone. The one thing that has been consistent is that Mahomes has had absolutely no trouble checking down and taking what is there and just getting a little bit and moving the chains rather than, getting the chunks as much as they used to. So the completion percentage probably going to end up with a career high, from that standpoint. And as well, he should, because, the underneath stuff that's there, the short stuff has been wide open. Teams are letting them do that. And if the Chiefs if you're going to let the Chiefs kill you by 1,000 paper cuts, they're going to do it. I mean, they have the patience now to do that. And that's something that maybe they didn't a couple of years ago, but I think Mahomes does now. And so you've got to pick your poison. And I don't think that anything, really to me epitomized just how much this team maybe has fixed itself than, that last touchdown drive before halftime. Get the first down in the red zone. Looks like, hey, maybe they're going to be able to break this off, take a loss. They have 2nd and 24. And I joke, I mean, okay, 2nd and 24, there's a 60% chance they're going to get into the end zone here. Next play, pass interference, gets them 1st and goal at the 1, and they punch it on the one play later. So the fact that this team's, we'll see if it's a permanent fix, but 3 of 4 in the red zone, the other drive, they get the field goal. The fact that they fixed a lot of the problems in the red zone today, that should be scary for the rest of the league. And we haven't even talked about the defense, which the defense had its worst half of the season in the first half and backed it up with an amazing second half. I mean, holding the Chargers to 4.3 yards a play. I mean, Chargers have been playing pretty good offensively for the most part, and this team absolutely shut them down in the second half.
Really quick, Matt, I just have to ask, when you talk about MBS on that pass, are you talking about the deep ball, or are you saying MVS was open on another part of the field? It
was on the interception. They said that Mahomes said, "Don't look at MVS. Just don't," because he missed the play there.
Okay, because Hardman was the one he was throwing to. I was trying to clarify there.
Yeah, so, no, he says he should have thrown to MVS.
Gotcha. Really quick before we go to break. Sorry, I just want to throw this in. 2 for 4 in the first half on 3rd downs. 3 for 7 in the second half. The key though was they never seemed to get to 3rd down. Only 4 third down plays in the entire first half, and they scored 24 points. You're going to take that every time.
Yeah,
that's pretty remarkable. Just as far as how they were able to move the ball and not put themselves into any bad situations.
It certainly worked out. McCole Hardman was one of those players. Coming up, we're going to talk about who those returning players are and what that lift did for this team. We are going to talk about the defense and the domination that it brought, not just Travis Kelce, but a number of other players. But first, Travis obviously had his ride running. He was all over the place. And we have a way to help you get your ride running the same way. Our partners over at eBay Motors have teamed up with our Locked On Fantasy Football host, Vinny Iyer, to bring you some of the best picks every week, all season long for your fantasy team. Right now, whether you're scouring the waiver wire or just getting ready for your next matchup, every week he's going to give you the best players that are guaranteed to fit your roster. So let's see who Vinny's picked for this week's the eBay Guaranteed Fit Fantasy Picks of the Week. And I'm going to start right at the top. My quarterback 2 from last draft season is CJ Stroud down in Houston with the Texans. He's been racking up points left and right while limiting his mistakes. He's got a 9-to-1 TD interception ratio, averaging just under 277 yards a game. And in week 8, he's got a pretty shaky Panthers defense to go against. They've fallen to some pretty bad quarterbacks so far, and they're not going to have many answers for the weapons that he's going to be able to use. He's going to pick them apart. He's going to have a very strong fantasy performance. That makes a lot of sense to me. I'm totally on with Vinny, and he's going to give you that fantasy football perspective on Locked On every single week, so you can get to your fantasy championship. And eBay Motors is pairing with us to get them to their championship because they know how to build a championship for your ride for the perfect fit, everything that goes in together with your vehicle. They have over 122 million parts for your ride or die, and you can make everything from running smoothly to looking good to sounding good with brake kits, bumpers, packs that fill out the roof rack, the whole 9 yards. You can get it all at eBay Motors right now. And it's a guaranteed fit. It's guaranteed to fit your ride the first time, every time, or your money back. Plus, at these prices, you are making money, you are not burning cash, and you can get what you need, whether it's a tail lamp for my tailgate or something for your car. Your ride or die will stay alive at ebaymotors.com. It's a guaranteed fit. It's only available for U.S. customers. Eligible items only, and exclusions do apply. Now, a couple of takeaways from the defensive side of the ball. If you had asked me pregame, I certainly made a mistake that I don't usually make, Matt. I overestimated the impact Keenan Allen could have today. 55 yards on 4 catches, less than 50% completion percentage. It was Palmer that actually exploited the defense a little bit more for the big 60-yard gainer as well. But it was a tale of two halves, like you mentioned before the break. For me, in particular, it was for the secondary because I felt like they were a little bit too attached and getting faked out by Justin Herbert's eyes. They're driving them away from what he was able to then complete. They fixed it in the second half. It was on them, but it was a complete and utter change there. What happened, and what do you attribute that turnaround to?
Yeah, I think it's a couple of things. I mean, one, to me, I think we were probably right in talking about what the Chiefs' defensive game plan was going to go into this game. It was going to be, don't let Keenan Allen and Austin Eckler beat you. And they didn't. I mean, they took both those guys out of the game. And both those guys obviously have been Chiefs killers in the past. They took them out. What the Chargers did that tripped up the Chiefs in the first half was going no huddle and going up tempo. That really kind of fooled the Chiefs. They were not really, truly prepared for that. Throw them off kilter a little bit. Several of the guys on defense, talked about just how difficult it was to get into rhythm and what the Chargers were doing. They weren't reading things real well. Obviously, I think that the connection that Herbert and Palmer had in the first half is a pretty good example of that. I mean, there's a player that the Chiefs were not keying on. The Chargers kind of figured out, I think, that, hey, they're going to get some favorable one-on-one matchups there that they can take advantage of. And going up tempo and trying to gas the Chiefs a little bit worked in the first half. Second half, I think the Chiefs just, frankly, they, as Justin Reed told me, got back to playing their version of football. That they just did a better job of getting the Chargers to play that kind of their tempo of football. The turnovers obviously were huge. But I think the biggest thing was that eventually, I think the Chargers playing up tempo probably gassed out their offensive line a little bit. Because in the second half in particular, I didn't see the Chiefs having any problem getting pressure on Herbert with 4. And certainly Charles Omenihu coming back, I think, had a big part of that as well. But when you're able to get pressure with 4 in the NFL, your life is so much easier as a defensive coordinator. And and even even plays like the Drew Tranquil's delayed blitz, that comes up with a big play, that becomes easier when your front 4 is getting all the work. I mean, because in that case, the Chargers had their hands full with trying to protect 4 and just were not prepared for the delayed blitz from Drew Tranquil. He comes through unblocked and makes the play. So I think, one, it was certainly a better design second half game plan, but 2, better execution across the board from the Chiefs defense.
The other thing that really stood out to me, and I'm not trying to take anything away from the defense here, why did they continue to run the ball? It worked. It didn't work for them. I mean, the Chargers came in, ran the ball 3 straight times, didn't give Justin Herbert a chance. And there were multiple drives where they were running the ball more than they were throwing. I don't understand that thought process. You were moving the ball a little bit, I guess, but that's not going to be the Chiefs team that's up a touchdown at that point, and that's not going to close out a game. So I didn't understand that part of it, but the Chiefs defense came to play, and they played fantastic. There was all sorts of pressure today. Chris Jones had pressure, even though he didn't get a sack. First game that he hasn't had a sack in, 9 games now? I think this would have been 9 if he would have got a sack. So, but he had pressure, and I think he was the one that was hitting Herbert as Herbert threw his pick to Cook at the end of the game as well. But Omenihu showed up in a big way, not only with his ability to get after the quarterback, but also knocking the ball down. Willie Gay had a huge knockdown as well. Defense was just all over the place.
Yeah, and I think to your point about the run game, I think probably the Chargers, that 49-yard touchdown that Kelly had was probably fool's gold to a degree. I mean, it was a big hole for him. He was able to take the cutback lane, go through it. There was plenty of room. He had one guy to beat, makes Justin Reed miss him, and he's gone. And that was just a mistake by the Chiefs defense. They have not made many of those, especially against the run. They've been a better team. And so I maybe that was, like I said, just a little bit of fool's gold, because that was this one breakdown, and it was not there the rest of the way. I mean, they tried, but even with Eckler, Kelly, you take out that one play, I think he has 6 for 26 on the day. Not a fantastic effort. So, no, I mean, the Chiefs did a really good job on the ground outside of that one play.
I think when you take it on its whole, you're right. A couple of big chunks, the 60-yarder Palmer, the Kelly run, a couple of chunks for the Chiefs actually got called back, including that screen to McKinnon, et cetera. But if you told me that Dana, Gay, Karlaftis, Omenihu, and Tranquil are all going to be credited with a sack, and you were going to get hits from all those guys, plus Chris Jones and plus Turk Wharton. Context on the quarterback today totaled out at 9 by my count. That is a great day out for that front as a whole. Again, we're going to talk about Omenihu and McCole Hardman coming up in the next segment. But when you put it all together, that front is starting to take on more and more steam. And I think this is just the beginning, Matt. There are more games they can play. Do you see them eventually getting to the point where this can be a standard output for them in this league?
I mean, it should be. I mean, I think that, frankly, on both sides of the football, this is the game. I mean, if you just look at the total numbers of this game, I mean, it didn't come out the way that, I think that the Chiefs would have wanted. I mean, you want more balanced across the board. But frankly, I mean, I think if you look at this game, this is what this team believes that they can be, both offensively and defensively. They think that they are the best, one of, if not the best offensive team in the league. They believe that they can be a top 5 defense. And today they looked like that on both sides. And so, yeah, I mean, even though it was a weird way that they got there today, and Marquez even joked after the game about, the offense, like, hey, scored 31 points. That's pretty good to me. Sounds like things are fixed. We will see. I mean, we need to see it repeated, especially on the offensive side. The defense, to me, we had a conversation in the media workroom tonight. Is this the best defense that Patrick Mahomes has had? Is this the best team that the Chiefs have had with Patrick Mahomes? Is it this year or 2020? I mean, right now, I think I'm on the side of this team.
Yeah, I like that. The question is, where can it go from here? The return of 2 players lifted this team. What does the future look like for them? We're going to get into that after this, because if you want to get into the action on it, you can do that at FanDuel. Right now, they have a great deal at America's #1 sportsbook that new customers are going to get $200 in bonus bets for just placing a single $5 bet and that is guaranteed. That's $200 in bonus bets when you place one $5 bet, win or lose, whatever the outcome. So if you're thinking about getting into the action with FanDuel, there's no better time than right now. You can bet props, spreads, money lines, unders, overs. There's all kinds of stuff that you can get into at FanDuel.com/lockedon to get into the thick of it this NFL season. That's from FanDuel, the official partner of the NFL. Now, if I was going to bet, it would probably not have come down on a line for Charles Omenihu producing like he did. His debut, and he talked about it post-game, Matt. I saw a little bit of a quote, but I'd like your take on it, in that this was like the hardest thing that he's gone through in his career. Coming out of Texas, he had kind of stops and starts, and we've seen him evolve in chunks. Clearly, he used these last 6 weeks to be prepared. He understood how to affect a ball game, not just by producing pass rush, but attacking the ball in the air, being a guy that can beat his man and worry about the rest later. I thought this was a really encouraging sign that is a bonus right now, but a guy that I think is going to play a core role in the years to come in this defense. Where are you at?
Yeah, this was a really nice game to see from Charles Omenihu. And after the game, some of the things that he said, I mean, you could just tell how emotional it was for him. He told me he woke up at 6:15 this morning, just pumped up and ready to go. And he tried to calm himself down. And then once he got to the stadium and saw the fans, he got kind of pumped up again. And he said he was trying to remain calm because he says he plays better when he's mellow. Well, whatever he was today, I'd try to keep it at that level if I'm Charles Omenihu, because when he said that the sack that he had was probably the happiest moment of his life. The mood that he was in after the game. I mean, this was the greatest moment of his career. I mean, for him to have gone through the challenges that he has gone through personally and professionally, really going back to January, and then having to miss these 6 games, he said was very tough. He went back to Texas and tried to just continue to do what would have been training camp work the entire time. So, he said he was trying to stay in shape and try and keep in that rhythm as best you can, without playing against other football players at the elite level. I mean, that's usually the tough part. The one advantage that you're thinking about with Omenihu is that if he can come in week 7 with fresh legs and be somebody that plays at this level, then that's just another chunk that you can add to this defense. And my only caveat, and the only thing I want to see with this is to see it continued, because, Omenihu's best game in the preseason was game 1. And, I think he played with a lot of emotion in that game too. And then, maybe it settled down a little bit. Let's see what happens, because this was a marquee moment. This was an emotional game for him. It's probably the biggest game of his career to him. But he seems like in a great mindset. I mean, he talked about just how happy he is in Kansas City, and that, he feels like this is the best time of his career as far as where he is, peace of mind wise. And if that's the case, then this could be a really good, second half of the season for Charles Omenihu and the Chiefs. Let's see what happens, but we need to see him replicate this. But if you got even, I think, 80% of what you got from Charles Omenihu today, you would take that and put it in the bank right now, because that would be, I think, a Pro Bowl kind of player. I mean, that's how good he was today.
Yeah, and you look at the rest of the guys that they have rushing. Obviously, they have Chris Jones. Wharton had some good plays as well. But then you look at the sack that Willie Gay got, just the play design of that play, getting Willie Gay a free rush at that point. But then you also look at guys like George Karlaftis is continuing to grow. He got a sack early. Unfortunately, I didn't get to see it because CBS wasn't showing the game. But, it happened, I guess. I wish I could have seen it. But I believe you tweeted out something like that was a Furious George sack, if I'm correct, Matt. But then again, you also have FAU, who we're still sitting there waiting to grow up into the role that he's going to be playing on this defense. And if they can get him going as an added piece to what they already have with the Omenihu, I think they're going to be very good getting after the quarterback in the second half of the season.
Yeah, I mean, those sacks were all kind of a little bit different flavors. I mean, if you can design it up so that you get 2 sacks on blitz where guys are just absolutely untouched, that's pretty good play design from Steve Spagnuolo and Joe Cullen to set things up for that. And then, I mean, Georgia's sack wasn't just a, beat the guy around the edge. I mean, he had to make a second move in order to get that sack. And that's good. I mean, that's impressive. I mean, that's why I called it a Furious George sack, because it wasn't just one power speed move. I mean, George had to, use some tenacity. I mean, he had to have a little second effort and some motor to get that one. And yeah, I mean, even though Chris Jones doesn't get a sack, he was very productive. I mean, he was definitely around the quarterback. All those guys were, Mike Dana had, several, times when he was in Herbert's lap. Karlaftis and Wharton combined for just a really vicious drive to the ground on Herbert there at the end. So it was across the board. I mean, everybody was getting productivity. And, and honestly, I mean, one of the best defensive line plays, I think, of the day for me was Derek Nottie, making a run stuff at the line of scrimmage at a big moment. So, yeah, I mean, to me, the front four across the board is playing is at an incredibly high level. And if they continue to do this, and honestly, I mean, if you're able to get some more out of Menahue and Felix in the second half, and to me, sky's the limit for this defense.
And I was really pleased to see that while everyone's taking a step forward on the front four, they also, Spagnuolo didn't go away from sending linebackers occasionally. I didn't see a ton of DB blitzes this particular game. You have your hands full with them. So, but it didn't shift the whole thing because you expect just to get home with 4. I was really happy with the tranquil play. Obviously, the result was great, but just the fact that it was called to begin with, that's what I think this defense has come to grips with, that they are good at pressuring, whether it's from the safety level or the linebacker level, or obviously with the front four. When you look at PBUs, I think that plays into it because it allows the defense to have that time with Snead, Gay, Cook, Reed, Menahue himself, obviously with the batted ball, Tranquil, and Edwards, all with passes defense today. It was a complete effort, and I think that's what they have to do going forward. It is a team game, and I think whether it's the best or not, Matt, that argument certainly is going to exist, but I think this is probably the most unit-based, playing as 11 guys on defense that we've seen in a long time. And you need that to be a spark. You also need a spark when you need one guy to lift you. That guy today was McCole Hardman. He's been back for about 5.5 seconds, and he gets on the field, and he makes an impact. I actually had said in our pre-game show that I thought he might score today. He nearly made me smart, but how impressed were you with McCole walking back into the building and be able to pick it up?
Yeah, to be able to come in and play, frankly, as much as he did on offense, I mean, it says a lot about McCole. I mean, certainly you can say 60 to 70% of the offense is probably very familiar to him. There might be some terms that have changed. Maybe there's a few tweaks here and there, but largely, I mean, hey, the play calls and language are going to be the same. I mean, there's certainly some new wrinkles that you have to pick up, but there's a good chunk of it that is familiar to him. But he looked pretty comfortable on offense. I mean, I thought it took him maybe a little bit to settle in the first half. The one incompletion, one drop. I think that they could have had that play. It was a tough throw. Maybe he was in the wrong place. It's hard to tell. Maybe Patrick just forgot, what size McCole is. You never know. But he has the big third down catch in the second half, and obviously the punt return was huge. I mean, that flipped the field at a time when it felt like the Chargers, even though they weren't getting anything done, they were playing in the Chiefs side of the field. I mean, they were consistently putting the Chiefs inside their own 10 to start drives. That last one, I think that the Chargers were starting on their plus side of their 40. They were winning the field position, and the chance there, one touchdown makes the one-score game and completely changes it. McCole flips the field, and that really turned the game, and was really interesting just to see how excited that team got after that punt return, because a lot of McCole's old teammates and everything all came rushing out there to celebrate with him. That was a pretty cool moment out there for him, and I mean, clearly something's right, because he was more productive in this game, one game for the Chiefs, than he was in 6 games for the Jets. So clearly something is right for McCole in Kansas City.
You're absolutely right. He had 2 huge plays for Kansas City, the punt return and that third down pass. But that also shows Mahomes trust him. The other thing that also stood out to me is Mahomes showed more trust in some of his other wide receivers today. He threw to MVS when MVS was pretty closely covered. Didn't come down with the ball on that specific play, but he still threw it to him. Got Sky Moore involved early in the offense. Threw it to Kadarius Toney down the field a little bit. The other thing that I didn't mention earlier, Mahomes had a 10.1, I think, yards per attempt today. You're going to win a lot of games if your QB can do that on a regular basis.
And you talk about McCole and Patrick and trust. And funny thing, in the McCole's new locker, you come in midseason, you kind of get an empty locker wherever there is one. So his new locker is next to the quarterbacks over by Patrick and Blaine. And during his post-game conversation with reporters, he was asked, hey, do you, about his trust with Pat and everything. And McCole looks over and says, hey, Pat, do you trust me? And Pat says, of course I do. Just get into the end zone next time. So that tells you a lot about the camaraderie about this team and just how happy they are to have McColl back.
Well, it certainly showed on the field. The result, obviously what it is, folks, your Chiefs are leading not just the AFC West, but the AFC. Obviously, there's a ball game going on tonight. We have to get to our takeaways and our game balls. We did not pre-decide this as we usually do. So, Matt, as our esteemed guest, the field is open to you, sir. Who gets your game ball?
I want to. Sometimes you know what? I want a third pick today because no offense, because
okay,
you guys are great. But you come in and with your how dare I say, for lack of a better phrase, preconceived notion about who should get your game ball and everything. And I take whom when I go first, I try to take whom I think is the best. But today, I'll be honest, I think there's 3 people who deserve a game ball. And if one of you guys doesn't take one of the other people that I think deserves a game ball, I'm going to be angry. So I want you guys to go first.
Fine. I'll take
Patrick Mahomes.
There. Done.
There you go. Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce. Mahomes, 424 yards. Again, 424 yards. Not only that many yards, but again, as I said, 75% completion percentage. That's huge for a QB that's throwing the ball down the field like he was today. And that's great for him. So that's where my game ball is going.
I mean, Kels is Kels. 12 for 13, nearly made the other one. So there's nothing else to say about him. He's a Charger slayer. I hope that you have something that I've missed and you're angry now. Let's hear this.
No, you guys have absolutely rewarded me because those were 2 of my 3. So that allows me to make everybody angry with my choice when you're going to say, hey, no, wait, Matt, there's somebody else. It's Charles Omenihu. Anybody on there's a lot of guys on the defense that you could have picked, but Omenihu was an absolutely complete performance. I think his energy absolutely helped his defense, especially in the second half. He just seemed to be everywhere. I mean, the sack, the quarterback hits, he was in the area every single time. To me, that was an incredible debut performance, one of the better ones you're ever going to see in a Chiefs uniform for a guy in his first game with the team. So he deserves it. I was really impressed. Like I said, there's a lot of guys that you could throw in there too. So I'm not gonna be too angry and argue. If you're out there listening and you say, hey, wait a minute, I got somebody else deserves a game ball, you probably can make a compelling case. But to me, those 3 had absolutely the best case of anybody.
Really quick, Matt, injuries. Nick Bolton, obviously we know, just look at hand. Was there any other injuries? And we know what happened with Smith during the game when he came out for a play?
Yeah, it was hard to tell with Smith. It looked like maybe something just happened with his hand. He could have gotten stepped on. I'm not entirely sure. Hopefully we'll find out in the next couple of days. But obviously he comes back in after one play, so no big deal. Nick Bolton, dislocated wrist, that's going to be a problem. We'll see how much if some time. I would expect he's going to miss some time again. Let's see what happens. The one thing for the Chiefs, obviously, is that Drew Tranquill has been playing absolutely brilliantly as a backup in that role. So unlike the past years when, you're saying the Chiefs just lost their middle linebacker and they'd be in a tight spot, with Drew Tranquill, you don't feel that way. So, hey, is he the same player that Nick Bolton is? No. I mean, he's not on that level to me. But as far as being the guy who can run the defense and, is going to be in the right place and doing the right things, Drew Tranquill is that in spades. So not a big loss for the Chiefs, but it's not a huge drop off with what the replacement that you're going to get.
I'll give you a couple of second tier MVPs because I want to do this. I want to shout out Juwan Taylor, Donovan Smith, and Trent McDuffie. Keenan Allen had 55 yards today, folks. Somebody had to stop that and prevent him, and they did. So kudos to them. We do have a question from Terry we're going to answer. Matt will be back with us on Wednesday. Don't miss that show. But, Matt, probably to you, do you think there's a need with the rumor of Frank Clark? Is this something that we should look for in the future?
I mean, there's certainly interest, it sounds like, on both sides that the Chiefs, and that's always been true. I mean, the Chiefs have been willing to have Frank back at any time. I think Frank has admitted that he's always wanted to be in Kansas City. It's just a matter of timing and price. And, I frankly, no pun intended, I'm not expecting, Frank to be a 53 active player right now. I don't know that's where he would be if he came to this team. I think he'd have to settle for being on the practice squad for now. And if he's comfortable in doing that, I think a deal could get done immediately. If Frank's hope is to maybe catch on with a team that's where he can play and be on the 53, maybe he'll wait and sit back and see if that opportunity pops up. Injuries happen. That's widely believed to be where Carlos Dunlap is. And maybe he's waiting for a playoff team to, need some help. We'll see. But I mean, the way that this defensive line is playing, do you feel like that the Chiefs need some help? I mean, would Frank Clark, if he's on the practice squad, would he have been active today? No. I mean, no. Malik Herring was inactive today. So, to me, where Frank is at this point in his career, he's a rotational piece. And right now, the Chiefs don't really seem to have a need for that. If they get some injuries, sure. And I think that they would welcome Frank Clark to the practice squad with open arms. But it's just, to me, dependent on about what Frank Clark wants right now.
And folks, we will keep you apprised of any changes in that situation. Matt will rejoin us on Wednesday to go over where this team is. Tomorrow, we're going to break down the stats, everything else that goes into our analysis. And by then, by Tuesday's show, I should have the film and you'll have an idea of what I'm looking at there. So don't go away. Remember, we are 5 days a week and then some. You everydayers, we appreciate you. And if you want on the text line to get our notes and our takeaways, as well as any breaking news, it's 816-357-8781. Go sub over to Matt over on Chiefs Digest here on YouTube or at the site chiefsdigest.com. Matt, thanks for always being with us post game. We appreciate you and your time as the sun goes down there. Have a good one, folks, and we'll talk to you tomorrow.